The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is Rocio from SAGNY. Thank you all so very much for joining us this afternoon for a wonderful webinar. We have Cliff Quicksell Jr. with us once again. Cliff, thank you so much for joining us. He's going to be presenting Differentiate or Go Home, Surviving in a Highly Competitive Market. Now, at this moment, Cliff has informed me that we do have a lengthy presentation. We will be answering the questions, but towards the end of the webinar. However, do send them to me in the questions pane, and I'll go ahead and hold them for Cliff. And when he's ready, we'll go ahead and answer them for you. Cliff, once again, thank you so much for joining us. And I'm going to switch over to you right now. Okay.
Okay, can you see my screen?
There you go. Yep, I can see it.
Okay, perfect. All right. Well, thank you, everyone who's on the call. I really appreciate it. It's a pleasure to be back and participate in this great webinar series. This topic is very near and dear to me. Some of you may or may not know that I'm a consultant in the industry. I do come from a background in the industry, both supplier and distributor, and have been around almost 35 years now. The reason why I put this topic together is because through my coaching sessions, if you will, with different individuals, I realized that it's so important for us to look at ways that we can differentiate ourselves in a very, very competitive marketplace. And so I want to go through this real quick. I want to kind of open your eyes up a little bit. You probably already have them open, but I just think that this will certainly help you as we move forward. So our goals today are to understand, for you to get an understanding of what your goals and challenges are, what really challenges you. The question I always ask is, why would a buyer buy from you? And we're going to go through some of these slides here, and I think that you're, at some level, you might be a little shocked at what you see. But nonetheless, I think it's going to be pretty exciting. I want you to think a little bit deeper about your business. We always have to be looking at ways to reinvent ourselves so that we have this opportunity to actually set ourselves apart in this market. I mean, it's very, very crowded. For those veterans that are on this call right now, you know what I'm speaking of. I mean, years ago, there wasn't that many people in it. Now it seems like any time that there's a downslide in the economy, the promotional product industry gets a big spike with people joining up. Because, everybody tells, oh, it's easy to do. Your friends, your family, everybody buys this stuff. Here's some catalogs, go get them. And so the business acumen isn't necessarily always there for people that come on board. So it does create a very, very tight and pinched market. And the other thing I want you to look at today as you're looking deeper into your business is it time for you to make a change? What's going to set you apart in the coming years? And I think it's important for us to look at our businesses both from a micro and macro viewpoint. What am I doing today? How is it going to benefit me long term? And what's going to happen long term? I mean, I'll give you a real quick statistic that really blew me away. I'm working with an assistant of mine, and she dug up some stats that said that in the year 2020, which is only about 4.5 years from now, folks, that 85%, they project 85% of business transactions will have no human interaction. It will be done via mobile. So placing orders, handling conversations, everything's going to be online. So think about that, 85%. Now that's a projection. Whether it comes true or not, who knows. But as technology grows, things like this certainly can happen. So we need to be prepared for that. And then lastly, we want to make sure that we determine what's the next step for you. And it's going to be different for each individual. So as you go through this, you'll see what I'm speaking about. And I would like to offer, if anybody has any questions after this, you can feel free to give me a call or an email. I'm happy to answer any questions, but I will answer questions at the end as well. But if you want to do it offline, happy to do that. So let's take a quick review. past and present. What's going on 30 years ago, 20, 10, 5 years ago, now and beyond? What's going to happen? So I put this in there. I mean, I don't know if many of you've seen, many of you may not know what this is. This is a transistor radio, and I'm not trying to be smug about this. I actually did a technology seminar, and I pulled old things that happened, you know, tools that were in the past, and my son, who's 21, came in, and he goes, "Dad, what's that on the screen?" I said, "It's an ice tray." He goes, "What do you mean?" I said, "It's aluminum, you fill it with water, and you put it in the freezer. When you take it out, you lift it up, it cracks, and that's it." He goes, "You got to be kidding me." 21 years old, had no idea what an ice tray was. It was kind of funny. But if you look at this, you transistor radio, look at the technology that has changed over the years. Before, you had 4 channels on the transistor radio. Now, my iPod, I can put over 700 and 7,500 songs on my large iPod that I can carry around. It's endless. So the technology generally is changing dramatically. That too, it was interesting statistics that from 1900 to 1950, that 50 years of technological growth was condensed in 2010 to 3 months. What are things going to look like 5 years from now, 20 years from now? I think it's important for us to keep our eye on that. So let's first of all put ourselves in the buyer's shoes. You know, I often do this. You know, why would a buyer buy from me? Why would somebody come to me and want to spend their money with me? Now, you know, our buyers are becoming younger, more savvy, and they use the internet. To that statistic we were talking about before, that 85% of the will not have any human interaction in 2020. You know, listening to Bobby Lehue the other day when I was at a show in Chicago, he did a very stirring seminar about, you know, technology and things like that, and he's able to track that people actually are making buying decisions because they're going to the web first and doing the research before they even place their first call to him. And he has the ability to go back on the back end and track the statistics on that to find out who's been on the site and things like that. But you figure your savvy buyers, you know, if you look on, you know, they go to the web and they want to find product, look at how everything is so similar. So if I'm the buyer, I'm immediately in control. 70% off of closeouts, stick pens at 8 cents a piece. And then they talk about all these different things. And I want to take you through a little navigation here of just some of the websites, because oftentimes people will tell me, you know what, I'm spending all this money on a website and I'm not generating any traffic on it. It was interesting, and I sat next to a guy, a panelist for one of the big internet-based companies, and he said, people nowadays have no idea. We spend $150,000 a month on SEO and keeping our name top of mind. He goes, these single entities out here that are out selling, they don't have a chance to compete with people like us. So again, when you hear these type of things, what are you going to do to change? What are you going to do to be a little bit different? So let's go on a little tour here. What's different? When was the last time you looked at your competitors' websites? If you look at everything, all these websites pretty much are standard. You have a navigation bar on the left-hand side. You have products either dancing or floating across the screen. And they have, it's all the same. So if you're the same, then you're not different at all. And that really does put the buyer in total control. So the goal here today is to see how we can elevate our game. If you go to, here's another example, need it fast, one-day service. Everybody says this. Fast delivery, #1 in customer service, 10% savings. It's crazy when you look at this. Here's another one. Check this out. Free samples, free art, free if it doesn't ship on time. Lowest price guaranteed. If not, we will triple the difference back to you. Over 600 items in 24-hour, time frame. If I'm a young person navigating the web, and if price is really a concern of mine, this is where. Why would I go anywhere else? Why would I go anywhere else? Then here you got this one. Check out this unique selling proposition. 360-degree guarantee on shipment time, or it's free. Lowest price or double the difference back. satisfaction or will refund or rerun, your choice. And guess what? Do you have the ability to compete like this? So I believe that, the folks in this industry that are constantly leading with the idea that they sell product, they're really doing themselves a disservice. There's ways to elevate yourself and create a difference. It doesn't mean that you do away completely with selling product. It just means that maybe there's a different tack that you can go about in order to actually achieve the goal and be profitable. I say this because I have a lot of great examples of the folks that I work with. One guy in particular in Detroit, who's probably in one of the most depressed areas of the country, but this guy writes $700,000, $800,000 in business, and he writes it at 53% gross profit. And I know some of you probably are going, no way. I'm telling you, this guy, I've seen the numbers. I've seen the reports. It's amazing. It's just this mindset shift that he has created, and that the way he goes to market that makes him different and sets himself apart. And he doesn't have to deal with all this nonsense. And then let's talk about the secret codes that we have, the ABC PQR codes. If you go to a Google search and put in promotional products discount codes, and I did this about a year ago, and look what pops up. This is the fifth search query that comes up. This guy from Florida owns a T-shirt shop, has now posted what all of the PPAI and ASI discount codes mean. So once again, we go back. You have a savvy buyer that can go to the web, can navigate to the web, and wants to know what that means. Now he understands. Your customers now have the ability to dissect and pretty much determine what your costs are, so they now have more power when it comes to negotiation. To me, this is a travesty. So how do we get out of this pricing code game and, again, set ourselves up to differentiate ourselves? So why is it important to create a difference? Number one, as we talked about earlier, there's a ton of people in this industry. There is a lack of training. The business acumen isn't necessarily the highest. So you don't have to have a business degree to open up a promotional products company. There are a ton of people in this business that are part-timers, that are doing it for just spending money. And, I'm not taking anything away from people that want to do this, but you have to understand that this is the landscape in which, if you're taking this as a profession, that you're competing against these people. So these part-timers and hobbyists that are out there, a lot of times it's like, I remember I had a guy I used to work with. He used to tell me that, 10% of something is better than 0% of nothing or whatever. And I just couldn't understand that mentality. So the internet, too, is, in cases that I showed you just a minute ago, have in some cases hindered us. It's helped us in a lot of ways as well. But for the most part, I think people would think that the internet has become a spoiler for us, that people can go online, they can check out prices, get the lowest price, as you saw demonstrated earlier. So it does. This is another reason why you need to look at why you need to create this difference. The other thing is that profits are eroding. I mean, the average profit margin in the promotional products industry right now is between 32 and 35% GP. Now, that may not be too bad, but I think the idea of doing like my buddy in Detroit, 50%, 53%, that's impressive. That's impressive. All these people running around talking about doing 1.2 million at 25 and 28 and 18% margin, that's not impressive. You expose yourself dramatically to all those extra costs. So again, we need to do things where it can be profitable, enjoy life, experience, have fun at what we do again. It's really important. And lastly, why do we need to create a difference? Because loyalty is all but gone away by the wayside. Clients nowadays, if you can make a 20% difference in price, loyalty disappears. And now you have people that are willing to sell at cost plus 5% in the marketplace. You know what? That's potentially could put people out of business. Now, I don't want I'm painting a picture here, not to discourage you, because I'm a big believer that whenever there's an obstacle, there's an opportunity. And I'm here to talk about the opportunity today, ways that we can actually differentiate ourselves. So when we think about why is it that clients buy? They buy for branding, they keep themselves top of mind, they tell you we need something to hand out at a show, they're very budget conscious, they need to do everything on the cheap, they want you to sharpen your pencil, they want to promote a new service. And as we talked about before, it only takes 20%, the difference in price, for things to go away. Believe me when I tell you that I know people that I've talked to at shows, I'm sure many of you have as well, that people are out there and they're willing to work at cost plus almost nothing to get a deal. They have this mindset that if I go in cheap, I can ooch the margins up as I build the business. Folks, that doesn't happen. It doesn't happen. So we need to think differently about things. So when we start thinking about today, what are buyers really looking for? What do they want? Now, this was not something that I came up with. This was actually a study done by B2B Marketing Magazine, and they asked buyers, chief marketing officers around the country, what are the top 10, what are the things that you're looking for in a strategic partner? And it's interesting, I won't go through all of these, but two things that really stuck out to me are number 4 and number 7. Somebody that does excellent creative work and someone that has the ability to measure the effectiveness of the marketing, or the ROO or ROI. ROO stands for return on objective, ROI, return on investment, obviously. So when you start looking at this, if we want to work with buyers, we want to work with and become a good strategic partner with them, we need to understand what is it that they want. What are they looking for? And what's really interesting is when I do these seminars at the different shows, I ask the question, where do you think price is up on the list? And everybody, number 3, number 1, number 7. If you look at this compiled list, it doesn't exist. And I find that very interesting. Here's when price matters. When the playing field is level and everything is the same, that's when price takes over. So if I can go to all of you that are on this call and say that I want a white C-handled coffee mug, and everybody brings a white C-handled coffee mug, the only difference at that point is the pricing. There's other things that you can bring to the table that can certainly elevate that brand and the name in your client's mind's eye. But again, buyers are changing, the type of buyers are changing, and the question is, are you prepared to do business with people on their level? What today's buyers look like? Young, assertive, they're multitaskers, they're totally web savvy, and these are the people that that are buying from you. And you have to be. My daughter works for a very large company. She told me the other day she's now in charge of buying promotional products. I was like, wow. She goes, there's so much for me to choose from. I can go to the web and I can search things out and I can get the best price that I need. And I said, yeah, but you need to start looking at the other value that they bring to the table. He goes, well, she says, nobody tells me about that stuff. It's just they dump price on me. This is a product and there's an idea and a concept. Do you want to buy this? And so she says, I'm totally in control of what's going on now. My daughter and my son are both very, very savvy on the web. I could ask them a question about finding something. It wouldn't take them 2 seconds to be able to navigate and find it. This is your current buyer. And folks, this is not going away. This is not going away. So once again, are you prepared? Commonly perceived differences. People say all the time, I ask clients at these shows, I'll say, what makes you different? What makes you unique? Even in my coaching sessions, when we get down to this, I'll say, what makes you unique? The number one thing people say is I have great customer service. And I jokingly, that's like saying, what's unique about your house? I have windows and doors and a toilet. That's not unique. It's a necessity. The same thing holds true when it comes to your business. Customer service is a necessity. It's not different. Remember back when we looked at those websites a few slides back, Didn't they say all the same? Everybody said the same thing. Highest quality, best price, superb customer service, amazing credit terms. We're the biggest. We're the best. Free samples, free freight, free artwork, double or triple the difference back. Everybody's saying the same thing. So nobody's really different. Are you? Think about it. So my question is, what is your mission? I think you have to start from the ground and work up. What is your mission? What is your unique selling proposition? Now, we're not going to get into it all today, but again, I've told you early on, I want you to think a little bit differently about your business. It's imperative for you to reinvent yourself regularly. I think one of the nicest compliments I got from someone about 6 months ago was that a guy told me, he said, Cliff, he says, you know what, it seems like every year you reinvent yourself. And he goes, I don't see how you do it. Folks, I'm not special. I'm not better than any of you out there, but I do understand and recognize the need as a coach, as a speaker, as a presenter, all the things that I do, as a writer, I have to reinvent myself all the time to stay fresh and top of mind in my clients. Otherwise, if I don't, I become stale and rigored, and all of a sudden I become irrelevant. And it's really something that I think you really need to look at. Companies do it all the time. Think about your brand. What have you done lately to change your brand's look and to be more in with the times? I think it's really important that we start take a look at those type of things. And so ask yourself these questions. What is it that you really do? And, you know, it was interesting. If you get a chance, read this book by a gentleman named Simon Sinek. It's called Start With Why. And it has changed the dynamics of how I've run my speaking business now, my consulting business. It's not what we do so much. It's why we do what we do. And he talks about starting from the inside out. Most companies say, this is what we do, this is how we do it, and this is why we do it. And instead, he says leaders, companies that lead, like Apple, and he gives reference to people like the Wright brothers, that they had a purpose. This is why we do what we do. And this is how we do that. And this is what it is we do. He says people that work from the inside out are the people that inspire and lead. And this is what my hope is for each of you on this call. So what is it that makes you different? Why do you do what you do? What are your core values? What are your beliefs? Do you believe that every one of your customers should get the very best of whatever? Or what is that core value? Is your message that you're telling your customers, is it compelling? Your marketing, is it compelling? Is it targeted? Is it focused? Is it engaged? Ask yourself the question, why would somebody buy from me? Why would I continue to buy from you? What are the reasons for that? Do I believe the same things you do? Am I engaged at the same level that you are? And I know that this may sound a little bit deep and complex, but folks, things are changing dramatically in the workspace. And we really do need to be in tune with everything that we're doing in order to, elevate our brand and keep our game top of mind in our clients' heads. Here's another question. Do you have a marketing plan? Do you have a strategy? It was interesting. I did a survey, and I asked people. I asked a couple, maybe I got about 800, 900 people that responded. Do you have a marketing plan? Yes. 30% of those people said, yes, I have one. Of the 30%, only 3% of the people had it written down. If you don't have a written plan, one that you can actually navigate, review, change, you're doing your company a disservice. It's imperative that you do this. The other question, who is your ideal client? Now, a lot of people say, anybody that's got money and wants to buy stuff, no, that's an ideal client. That's the wrong approach. This goes into what I'm a big believer in, and that is marketing your company both on a vertical and horizontal axis. Owning a category, that you are the expert in the automotive industry when it comes to marketing, or you are the expert in hospitality, or a lower branch of hospitality. Let's say it's wholesale produce companies, or bars and restaurants, or maybe it's hotels. but you have to have a niche that you can hold on to. And I encourage people to look at developing 4 or 5 niche markets where you can actually create that significant point of differentiation, and your brand can go viral in those marketplaces. So the question you need to ask is that, are you a generalist or are you a specialist? If you look at any market out there, and we'll get into this again, if you look at any market that's out there in the market space, guess what? There are people that you have your McDonald's of the world, and then you have your very high-end restaurants, like my buddy in Vegas has the restaurant Floor. They're both selling hamburgers, but why is it one, you get one for 89 cents and one costs $16? It's all beef. There is a difference there. And that's the thing that we want to try to do here. How do we create that innovative difference so that you resonate with a particular audience? So owning a category, you need to become very focused and targeted. I'd say don't give up on your current clients, but I think it's important for you to review your list. In my coaching sessions, I have this one gal, for instance, we went through and we categorized all of her companies by the business she did by vertical market. And then we set up criteria for each of those clients, for each category. So we would say, like, her A, we had a list of A through E, and each of an A listed client would have these characteristics, and we did that for every one of them. It could have the amount of people that work there, number of years they've been working together, the amount of the sales that they had, the profitability, etc. And what was interesting is on her list of 140 people, 4 of them made the A list. 25 of them were on her E list. The E list comprised of people that if they called, we would not take their call. We would not do business with them for various reasons. They were hard to do business with. They didn't pay on time. They were always price shopping. So we want to get rid of that dead wood. So by doing that, we got rid of all that dead wood, which freed up about 25% of her time to really focus on the quality clients, and then transitioning these people from the C category to B and B to A. So being able to categorize that list and then understanding in my A category, all of the people that fit that A profile were in the manufacturing sector. So there's a market that we were going to target and broaden the horizon because she understood that market inside and out. So to categorize, review your list, it's very, very important. And when you do this, guess what? It becomes very manageable. You know who your customers are. You don't have to keep switching hats. Okay, now Betty's Beauty Salon over here wants combs, and now I'm over here dealing with Hewlett-Packard that wants high-end corporate gifts. I mean, the disparity there is too much. It's not manageable. And it really creates you to be more of a generalist than not a specialist. And again, I believe that if you measure it, when it becomes measurable at this level, your brand can go viral. So if you start thinking, and I use this inverted funnel. If you take financial markets, that's very broad, but you can narrow it. You can say the financial market is a vertical market, but I want to deal with credit unions specifically. In the Boston area, within a 50-mile radius from my office, with 3 or more locations, with 500 plus members, and a company that is bilingual. So now all of a sudden you've taken this broad vertical market and you've narrowed it down to a very small group that's very manageable, and now you have a potential market that you can go after and tackle. Now, once you've done it in Boston, just keep in mind that you could use the same criteria for New York, for Chicago. It doesn't matter. So if you come up with the right concepts and ideas, and we'll get into that in a minute, again, your brand can actually go viral. Tenure is a differentiator. Some people say, well, I've been in this business for 35 years. Well, there's been a lot of people in a lot of businesses for a long time, but they've not done anything to keep themselves current. So I implore upon you to think about this. You can stay current, but it's not just about the years. If you have not taken, this is a sidebar to help out Tim Brown over at PPAI, if you have not taken the product safety courses, where you can actually get an indicia after you take these courses that says you are product safety aware. That is definitely a differentiator. I took those courses about 7 to 8 months ago, a year ago probably, and I was blown away by what I didn't know. I was blown away by how exposed, if I was a distributor, that I could be legally because I wasn't aware. And I will tell you that these type of things, when you go in and you talk to a customer and somebody says, I want to buy youth T-shirts. Okay, well, we have to be able to actually print a notification on there about where it comes from. Well, why do we have to do that? It's because it's the law now. You can't have a hang tag and a label on that that tells that story. I don't want to get into that too much, but there's so many things that you have to be aware of now to be compliant in the market space. Otherwise, you could set yourself and your client up for failure. So are you perceived as a knowledgeable expert? Are you current with technology? Are you current with just like decorating technology, marketing techniques, social media? Are you involved in these types of things? These are the things that create a difference. People are going to your websites. They're checking your social media. They're looking at LinkedIn. Do they want to do business with you? Are you the type of individual that I want to work with? So while tenure is important, you must stay current with the times. You can't put your head in the sand. So we talked about constantly reinventing ourselves. Technology is driving our market, as we had talked about before. We need to look at using innovation and creativity. With technology now, things that can be done are just amazing. I was walking through a trade show recently and was talking to a gentleman who was the president, I think he was the president of the company Ahead, the headwear company. They can actually personalize each cap now within the logo. You have a firehouse that wants to do their crest or shield and wants to put the person's name. They print this amazing quality patch that they will actually put on there where they can personalize the name of each cap. And they can do the same thing on the label on the inside. So technology is really driving us now. So it's important that you understand the market, what's going on in the market, and taking the time to reinvent yourself so that you're not becoming stale in the market space. Look at a couple of examples here. Apple Computer, Kentucky Fried Chicken, the evolution of the Ford brand and logo. Companies like this are doing things all the time where if you see in 1976 where Apple had to put its name in there, now just the Apple, the brand, the Apple, the Nike swoosh, that's all you need nowadays for some of these companies just to recognize what the brand is. Is your brand current? Is that a differentiating factor, or is it stale? So I'm a big believer in dimensional creative marketing. I believe that this, without a doubt, is one of the huge differentiators. I build a lot of these campaigns for clients of mine, and they make a huge difference. I'll give you an example. The Pencil Me In campaign that you see here at the top, I designed that for a company. To date, they have over 80% appointment rate setting with this particular piece. When they go in, I have gotten reports back that clients say, I've never seen anything like this before. This is brilliant. Can you design stuff like this for our company so we can have the same type of marketing results? It's just outrageous. The You Be the Judge campaign, which we're proud to say won a Gold Pyramid Award last year, this particular piece was targeted specifically at marketing directors of law firms. Now, a friend of mine that uses this, he's the guy up in Detroit, has told me he's had between 60 and 65% appointment rate setting with this. Every time he sends out 10, he gets 6 to 7 appointments every time he sends it out. People want to talk about this. Price is not in the vocabulary from the beginning of the game. We're not doing quotes and sending prices in. We're having higher level conversations with people to get them to see that we're doing things different, that we are creative, that this type of marketing is measurable. And folks, I don't hold the Holy Grail on this. Every single one of you have the capacity and the ability to work with vendors and create some amazing marketing that will set you apart from your competition. Here's a great example. of what I'm talking about. My buddy Paul Zaffarana, he owns Pica Marketing Group. This is the guy out of Detroit. Gets a call from the Boy Scouts. The Boy Scouts say, we need to do an annual report. Can you help us out? Yeah. Most people would go out, want to find out how big the project was, how many pages, get the job quoted, send the quote in. Paul doesn't do that. He starts with questions. Well, let me ask you a question. Who is this for? Are you going to include anything else in the package? How do you plan on delivering this piece to the company, to the people, the recipients? So he's asking all these deep questions for the purpose of trying to come up with a creative solution for them. So they said these are going to the shareholders and whatnot, and other general people that would get the report. And he said, what if we came up with something a little bit different and unique? You wanted to add a product, you didn't know how to package it. So he came up with this idea to create this little puck tent out of cardboard or corrugated. And it had it printed to look like a small tent. Even to the detail, the little grass that's on the edges there where the stakes would go into the ground. So we create this package that all tucks into one another. And if you can see right here, you see there's the brochure that goes in here, or the annual report that goes in here, into a small custom sleeping bag that nestles inside underneath this flashlight, and all gets tucked into this box. It's shrink wrapped, labeled, and mailed to the recipient. That is different. That is unique. That goes over and above what most people would do in the marketplace. So again, when you think of things that are creative and different, that's a huge differentiator. Here's an example of something that's not on an ADC PQR code. Guess what? I determine the profitability of this. I determine what my profit margins are on something like this, not some supplier. That's no degradation to any supplier. I know you do what you have to do. But at this, you're now taking the reins back as a distributor and controlling what your profit can and can't be. It's very, very, I think this is very cool. And this really is a differentiator and sets you apart. Here's another example. I'm just going to go through some case histories of people that I've worked with that, this is something that was done for a bank. This was that they talk about history of the bank and how far it went back, and they used an hourglass inside this box. It's very innovative and creative. It's a little bit different. It's not just the product. It's thought-provoking. It's packaged properly. It has creative printing involved in that. And you know what? As I said to you, the people that I've worked with, they don't hold any special talent here, except the fact that they're open to try new things. They're open to reinventing themselves on a regular basis. And I think this is what we need to look at. We need to be looking at ways that we can be first to market. We also have to demonstrate while we're different. I often use this example. If I tell my wife, I love you, and I'm always telling her I love her, but I never hold her hand, I never help her with dishes, I never fold clothes, I never rub her back, I never give her a kiss goodnight. If I don't demonstrate that, then it's all words. We can tell people all day, yeah, we're creative, we're innovative, we're different, but if you don't demonstrate that with yourself first, showing people what you do first, folks, it's not enough just to say I'm creative. You have to, and innovative, you have to demonstrate that. And these are another two examples of ways that we have created some pretty cool promotions that have gotten some amazing results. And at the end of the day, it's all about, in my opinion, the marketing that you do for yourself and for customers is all about opening doors of opportunity. The sales side, the salesperson in you is the thing that's going to close it. But you have to create these opportunities for yourself first. And I believe that this is a huge differentiator. We talked about becoming a specialist. Hamburger is hamburger, folks. And like I said, why is it that I can go to the market and buy hamburger and I can cook it at home? But if I go out, the same burger, the same meat, I'm paying $16 for it versus going to McDonald's and buying it for 89 cents. If you look at, like, for instance, this example of Hubert Keller that's here. He has this restaurant called Flora in Vegas. The beauty about what I look at is it's the presentation. It's the way it's packaged. It's the way it's presented. That's what the value is. We put T-shirts in a box, put a dozen folded in the bottom of a box, and ship the box out. Why don't we ask the question of the customer, how would you like it packaged? Would you ever consider doing folding and polybagging? Did you ever think about a custom hang tag? Well, why would I use a hang tag? Explain to them the different things that they could do with a hang tag. Would you like to do a belly band around that? If you're going to do a hat and a T-shirt, would you like to roll the T-shirt and put a custom rubber band around that, holding together, giving it a very packaged look? There's so many opportunities that we have and that we just fail to grab because we're so busy trying just to get the order. Think about the presentation. Think about how it's going to be packaged. Do suggestive selling to your customer. You'll be amazed at the outcome. Being award-winning is a differentiator. Now, you know, I'm proud that I've done this. I'm proud that I've won a lot of awards for these different creative pieces. But you know what? I have to publicize those things. I have to let people know, using the press, using testimonials, going to my LinkedIn and web pages and doing that, creating a sense that you are indeed an expert. Do you have a blog? Do you regularly blog out to your market space? Are you regularly connecting to people, or are you just being very reactive as a matter of the difference than being proactive? You need to use testimonials from customers. And I know some people are very uncomfortable with this and it's almost like bragging about themselves. But folks, none of your competitors are going to do it for you. It's imperative that you're letting people know that you're having successes with other people. Publicize this. Use the success rate statistics that you have. Talk about this. This is what customers are looking for. They're looking for this all the time. Also, I use the term R&D all the time. If you see a concept that you like of mine, ask me. Steal the idea if you want. There's some of the things that I have that are proprietary, but many of them aren't, and that have been used over and over again and have been made better. And I think that is fantastic. If you want some ideas, TPAI has an amazing resource called the Idea Source. I don't know what the actual cost is, but I know it's relatively inexpensive. But they have over 2,000 creative case histories on there, all segmented by vertical market that you can look at that can really help you and guide you and to give you some good fodder and ideas that you could potentially repost in your Facebook and your Twitter accounts, etc. But again, to really elevate your brand in the mind's eye of your client. Really very, very important. So steps to creating a difference. Well, first of all, you have to break it down. You need to find a different idea. Develop your professional credentials. I don't know how many of you out there have your CAS, MAS, or your BASI, MASI, but I'm a big believer in education. I believe that you can learn so much. My son keeps prodding me, Dad, if you want to find out about how to do something, just go to YouTube. Well, today, I took his advice. I wanted to find out how to compress a video file. In three minutes, I figured out how to download a free application onto my computer and compress 4 and 5 gigabyte 4 and 5 gig video files down to very manageable 20 meg files, and it was ridiculous. So again, I constantly have to be looking at ways to reinvent myself, but the education side of this is absolutely amazing. What you learn at these shows, and I applaud you for being on this webinar right now and the other webinars that you will attend, because this is invaluable. Every time that you learn something, your value goes up, and you need to understand that. You need to communicate your difference to your customers. And that doesn't mean sending out an email, but posting it on your social media accounts, different things like that. And owning a category or several categories, being that expert in that particular niche market. I have friends of mine, I have one guy that does ambulatory services. Why? Because he had a background in it. and that's what he specializes in. I've got another guy that specializes only in dealing with fire departments because he used to be a fireman. He knows the language. When I was in business, I was big into hospitality because I had a huge background in that. So I encourage you to own a category, and when you get to that level, you have to believe it, you have to live it, and you have to act on it constantly. That goes from your marketing aspect to you have to live and breathe this whole concept that we're talking about. Maintaining your difference. How do we go about maintaining the difference? How do we go about doing this to where it where you really do take control? And I think maintaining the difference is, I like this whole idea of the concept of Kaizen. The Japanese practice this, and it's the state of what they call to make better. And you'll notice that many times you don't see as many recalls on vehicles that are Japanese built. Because I was doing some research on this, everybody on the production line has the ability to shut production down. Everyone. If they see a flaw that's happening, they can shut it down. And I think that is really amazing. I think it really is important for you to take a hard look at your brand. And I would encourage you to take the time to look at, lay out all your print collateral. Take screenshots of your website. Look at your business card, your letterhead, any catalogs that you might have. Lay it all out. Does it make sense? Is it inviting? Is it engaging? Is it different? Is it unique? Is it compelling? And if it's not, it may be time for you to take a hard look at changing your look, changing your brand. Heck, you might even want to change your company's name. People do it all the time. But again, it's making what you have now better. I remember a guy years ago, his name was Jim Tunney. He used to be a former NFL referee. And he was talking about, he made a comment. He says, a lot of people say if it ain't broke, break it. If it ain't broke, leave it alone. He goes, my thing is if it ain't broke, break it and make it better. That doesn't necessarily mean dismantling your whole company, but it means looking at just really taking an objective look at that, about everything that you do, the way you present yourself. What's new on the horizon for technology? Are you involved? Are you engaged in that? Or my wife hates Facebook. She won't go on it. But as a business person, it's imperative that you're connecting with people on a social level, especially when you hear all the literature that's out there and all the webinars that I've listened to about how people, as I said before, are looking at your social sites. More so than your website, they're looking at your social sites first to find out if you're the type of person that they want to do business with. As your buyer becomes younger and younger, and we become older and older, that's not going to change. It's going to, I think, become even more intense. I love this quote by Bob Lutz, former president of Chrysler, and the author of the book Guts. He says, whenever someone else is doing it, go the other way. And I'm a big fan of that. I'm a big fan of being a maverick. Look at your competition. Do you look just like them? If we took your logo off of that catalog and put somebody else's logo on it, what would be different? What would be unique? And again, I want you just to take a very, very hard look at this. So where does it begin? I believe that this whole process actually begins with you. You have to start doing, you need to start doing things a little bit different. Make it simple, then build and expand on it. You know, sometimes it's important just to go back to your roots. So I think it's also important for you to become a specialist. As I said, building and creating a business that is going to, that could potentially go viral. Folks, I can tell you that the marketing campaigns that I've shown you, literally, if you do, I did one years ago for a tennis club that was very, very successful. And when I do my seminars, I would tell folks, imagine if this was successful here for this tennis club in this small region of Maryland, There's tennis clubs in New York and California and Florida and Texas, all over the country. In fact, all over the world. Why is it that a marketing piece like this, just the marketing piece itself, couldn't go viral everywhere? That you couldn't introduce that kind of concept in other places? You could become the marketing expert when it comes to tennis clubs. Now, a lot of people go, yeah, well, I don't know. I've seen it done. I've seen where people have become experts at just selling headwear, just selling buttons, just selling glassware, and have made big money. There's a guy that I know, he was telling me the other day that there was a friend of his years ago that, when it was popular, just sold matchbooks to restaurants all over the country. And the guy made hundreds of thousands of dollars a year profit just from selling matchbooks. So there is, as you know, as technology grows and people have more access to the web, I think that we need to start looking at this. And the reason why I think this is important is for you to start looking at these things now, is because as things change, if you get in the mode of constantly looking at things down the road, how things are changing, you can be more proactive for that. Instead of waiting for something like that to take place and something like that to happen, you can almost guess where it's headed, or you can be more proactive on ways that you can enter that market or be at the forefront of that market before it starts to envelop. It goes back to years ago. I was working with a few companies, and that tragic 9/11 that happened. I remember a friend of mine. He had the company Cantor Fitzgerald, which was on one of the top floors of the World Trade Center. He said, Cliff, 70% of my business is in that customer, and that's where the airplane went into the building. Killed 700 employees. The company immediately, my buddy lost 70% of his business overnight. He said, I was too busy to market. I was too busy doing everything. You can't be too busy for that. You have to, in this world right now that we live in, unfortunately, you have to be looking at things. Are you looking at alternatives, for instance, about things that where companies that you're working with, are they looking at other places where they're having things manufactured? What happens if something happened where it disrupted the shipping line coming in from China, where a multitude of our products come from? If we're not looking at these type of things, if we're not educating ourselves on a regular basis, then we're doing ourselves and ultimately our clients a disservice. I will tell you that I think, as I mentioned earlier, that education is a huge differentiator. And I'm going to once again encourage you, if you have not taken those product safety classes, you should definitely do that. And I'll tell you why PPAI puts so much emphasis on that. They made it a requirement that if someone in your company has not taken that course or that series of courses, you cannot exhibit at their shows, or you cannot even advertise in their magazine. And my understanding was, and I hope I have this right, is at the SAGNY show, at the Promotion Z show last year, they actually had to turn away a couple of suppliers and wouldn't rent them a booth because of that very reason. They realize how important this is. They realize how important it is, and it should be important to you. That type of education, setting yourself apart, doing things different, not following what everybody else does. Let's do a website. Guess what? You need to look at things differently. I want to say one other thing here with regards to websites. It's interesting. I was in Canada, and I listened to a panel discussion that was moderated by Jay Rang. And they were asking different people on the panel different things the way they go to business. And it was almost like a validation for me, because I'm not a big fan of these traditional websites that are in the industry. I think a website's great to have, but I think it definitely has to be unique and engaging. It should have video in it. It should have a blog section and whatnot. She said, we have a buried search engine on our website. People cannot go to our website and search product. She says, we have a website that when people want product, that's our job to search it. She says, we have a website that has a video, it has testimonials, it has our blog. It shows creative campaigns that we have developed over the years. It shows results. She says, I have, in a matter of about 8 years, have developed a company now that does $5 million in gross sales at a very substantial profit margin. And so I'm thinking, hooray for that gal. She did a brilliant job. She sets herself apart from the mainstay, from the competition. It's fresh. And I think that these are things that we really need to be looking at. So what will you do next? That's the big question. You can take this information, you can say, well, spent 45 minutes listening to that, didn't get anything out of it, or I got something out of it. But the thing is, if you don't do something, it's for naught. At my seminars, oftentimes, I will hold up a pack of CDs, and I'll say, in this CD, I have a 9-set CD here that will change the direction of your business. Who wants it? Everybody's hand goes up. Who wants it? Who really wants it? I'll say that maybe 5 or 6 times, and one person will get out of their chair and come up and take it from me. That's commitment. That's doing something. We talked about that before. Saying you want to change, saying you want to be different, saying you're creative is just talk. You have to put that talk into action. So whatever you do, make sure that you're passionate about it. I think that you'll find that if you really do take the time to look at your business from a different angle, try to set yourself apart from the competition. As Lutz said in his quote, if you see everybody doing it this way, go a different direction. Blaze a trail and be a pioneer. I think that you'll be very pleased if you did. So I want to thank you for taking the time to listen today for Differentiate or Go Home. And at this time, if there are any questions, I'll be happy to answer them. So I'll go back to Rosia and ask her if there's any questions.
Yeah, sure, Cliff. There are a couple of questions from Regina. Her first question is, how do I get to 50% plus profit margin when suppliers are on a 40% margin at the most?
Okay, I'm sorry. Can you say that one more time? How do I get to 50% profit and above, and do what?
How do I get to 50% plus profit margin when suppliers are on a 40% margin at the most?
Very good question. So what was the young lady's name that asked the question?
Regina.
Okay, so Regina, this is where if you're just selling the product, you're right. It's very difficult to do that. However, give you an example. If somebody says to you, I want coffee mugs to give away at a trade show, most of us will run out and do coffee mugs. But if you ask the question, how would you like those packaged? First of all, you're going to get people to say, what does that mean? Well, you're going to put a ceramic coffee mug in a trade show bag. Catalogs are going to fall in it, things like that. It could break the handle. We highly recommend that you put those in a small mailer box, and it also has a better appeal because it looks like a gift. We have the ability to print the outside of the box. So this is, again, a way just to plant the seed. It's just one add-on, like I talked about before with the T-shirts, folding and polybagging, adding a custom hang tag in the shirt. Those type of things add value, and they're very inexpensive, and you can generate a lot of margin. A good example of that, I had a buddy of mine come to me years ago and wanted to order T-shirts. Well, I asked him, why did you want to do a T-shirt? He explained to me, so I understood that it was a rep vehicle. I said to him, how would you like those packaged? He goes, what do you mean? I said, well, how are you going to get them out to the audience? He said, well, what I plan to do is I'm going to just put them in an envelope and mail them. How about, can we print the envelope? We can do those envelopes for you as well. We can do that. So he agreed, and he says, well, give me a price on it. So we went back and we got a tie-back envelope. We gave him a price to print the envelope. With this, well, I'm sorry. He was going to put them in an envelope, but when we were talking about this, he says, we're actually rolling out a new product. So I recommended to him that we actually do a mailing tube. So I said, we can do the mailing tubes. We can do a PMS color of your logo on the outside of the wrap. Then we can do a tagline that wraps around it that says Digex is rolling out a new product. and then we'll roll and tube those for you with a cover letter, and we'll have them all finished. I had to sell the value, doing it in a clean room facility, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. When we came back, we charged him $1.60 to do this. He goes, well, that seems very inexpensive. It cost me 43 cents to do for the tube and to have it all done, all the fulfillment done. So if you look at that, we did 3,500 T-shirts at $1.17 profit. But if you look at the profit margin in there, it was 290% gross profit. If you add that to the 39 or 40% gross profit of the T-shirt, we wound up making close to 61% gross profit on the order. So it's not about selling just the product, and that's what I want people to understand. Get rid of the notion that you just are out there selling stuff. There's ways that you can enhance this for the customer and help them with some very creative solutions. Now, not everybody's going to do it, but don't get discouraged. I had an individual once that told me, I'm never going to package this, I'm never going to do that, and then one day something happened to some of the shirts that she had at the trade show, and from that day forward, everything was folded in polybag. Cost me 20 cents. I charged 60 cents to do it. So again, that's the ways that you can actually up those margins as we're talking about.
Okay, thank you. Her second question is, what is the name of the company that you mentioned? They do the individual name printing for fire departments.
Oh, that's Ahead, A-H-E-A-D. It's a headwear company, and I believe it's owned by Cutter & Buck now.
Okay, thank you. And Racy, Racy's looking for your contact information. If you want to share that, or I can connect Racy to you later on.
No, I'm happy to do it. My contact information is Cliff Quicksell, and my phone number is 301-717-0615. And you can email me at cliff@cquicksell, the letter C, and then my last name, quicksell.com.
Thank you, Cliff. And to everyone, we have a couple more. You okay with a couple more questions?
I'm ready to go.
Okay. What supplier does the custom dimensional packaging? And that question is from Jamie.
Well, you know, Jamie, there's a lot of different vendors out there that do the custom packaging. I could give you a short list. The Chest, these are some of the people that I use regularly. The Chest is great. I use a company called Envision 3 out of Chicago. I use a company called the Platform Group Gallery out of Houston, Texas, and also Admin Zagabor out of the New Jersey, Philadelphia area.
Great, thank you. And one last question from Tanya. Can you tell us more about how the company in Detroit is writing so much business in such a depressed area?
Yeah, okay, well, first of all, my buddy Paul has really changed the mindset of his business and his own mindset. He goes after bigger customers, and he markets himself. Many of those creative marketing campaigns that I showed you, I have a large client that I design all of that work for them. And when we put out a new piece, every single time he's the first one to buy it. And he uses it, and he puts it out in the market space. So people I know it didn't happen overnight, but people over time have come to know him and recognize him as a very creative resource. Heck, he just did a thing last year for Volkswagen, and companies like Volkswagen, and he did this amazing marketing piece for Volkswagen that he won a Gold Pyramid award for last year. But it was a custom box that had a pop-up in it, that had a set of headphones and a USB drive in it. But it was just, the execution of it was brilliant. So being able to, now, does he sell product? There's no question he sells product. But I'm telling you, he leads with the idea that he's an innovative company. When he goes in, he asks questions. He doesn't flaunt catalogs in front of people. He doesn't, his website is unique and different. And it's just a very fresh look. Now, since I've been working with him, he's changed his website twice. And this is only in the last 6 years. But he realizes that in order to stay relevant, current, and to differentiate, he has to do that. And he's done a superb job with that. And, you know, he's not the only one. I've got a guy in Canada that I know. He's a friend of mine. I don't consult with him, but I did years ago. But he writes $1 million too at over 60% gross profit. And again, it's the businesses that he goes after, the fact that he's not a product pusher. He's more of a creative boutique agency, if you will, that sells promotional products. I mean, think about it this way. If a chef walks into a grocery store, a chef is looking at all the different ingredients that he has before him or her to be able to create something amazing. That's the way I think each of you should be looking at how you're going when you go to a trade show. It's like your supermarket. Look at all the ingredients that I have here to create things that you'll never find in the catalog. Like the examples of these marketing pieces I showed you, you won't find those in the catalog. You won't find not one of those in the catalog. Why? Because they came from my head. And you have the same capacity to do the same thing. And I tell you, it is a huge differentiator. And I get recalls and responses all the time from people that I work with that use these marketing tools that just say it's a differentiator. People, we don't talk price. We talk about, well, how can you help me grow my business? How can you help me drive traffic to my trade show? People ask you, this is the crazy thing. Here's a good example. People want to know, they go in to talk to a customer. I'm going to a trade show. I have $5,000. Well, how many people are going to be there? 5,000. So I need 5,000 of something at $1 a piece. We go back and scramble and try to find something that oohs and ahs a customer, and we're missing out on the biggest opportunity. How do I get, if we know statistics, for instance, 12% of the people that come to a trade show are your buyer. That's statistically what they say. So if I know that my key buyer, if I'm trying to sell a product or I'm trying to demonstrate something new, only 12% of the attendees that are coming are people that can afford it, the decision maker, et cetera, whatever the criteria. You would be doing your customer such a tremendous favor if you said, let's focus on the 600 that are coming to the show, the 12% of the people that may buy. Then you'll have a better, more effective show. So now I have $5,000 to divide among 600 people. Now I want to try to draw, my goal as a marketing company, this is you all speaking, is to help bring those qualified buyers to your booth. Not to have some tchotchke that some professional, adult trick-or-treater or some scooper's coming by who wants to rake some in their bag. That's not your goal. Your goal is to help the customer bring the qualified buyers to the booth. That's the goal. And if they want to have some product there too for the scoopers, fine. But no one's doing the client a service by just getting 600 coffee mugs and sitting them on somebody's table to hand out. It doesn't serve the purpose. That promotional products as they currently sit are for branding, supposedly to keeping a client's name top of mind. I buy a coffee mug for $3.65, and I use it every day for a year. It costs me a penny to get my message across. That's fine. Did it make them pick up the phone? You have the ability to take these tools, these ingredients that we have at our disposal, and create magic. And guess what? Doesn't come with an ABC PQR code. You determine your margin, you determine the value, and you get paid for that God-given gift that you have of creativity and innovation. That's the difference. And the only reason I say this is because I've seen it work for myself, and I'm not up here. Look, I used to be in your shoes, so I've seen it work for myself, and I've seen it for so many other people that have been out there that have embraced the concept and have been just remarkably successful with this. So I'm sorry for the long-winded answer, but I believe in this so much, and it really just does my heart so good to see when people come up to me and go, boy, I tried what you said, and it works. I mean, that's validation, and that makes me feel good. So, sorry.
No apologies. It's something that you're extremely passionate about and that shows, and that's really what people like to see as well. I find that a very good thing. And I think that's it for the questions, Cliff. For everyone who's still here, we have recorded this webinar. It will be uploaded to our YouTube. And feel free to reach out to me if you have any other questions or if you want to get in touch with Cliff again. He gave you his contact information, but I have it as well. Cliff, thank you again so much for all of this.
My pleasure.
You know, I'm sure people came out with quite a few tips on this one. Okay, thank you again.
You're welcome. Everybody, best success to you for the rest of the year. Thank you.
Absolutely. Best of luck, guys. Bye.